Good afternoon. So my name is Emma Mulley and I'm from Cardiff Metropolitan University. I am delighted to be chairing today's panel discussion, and I'd like to welcome you to this Explore Careers panel discussion, one of a series of events being hosted by the IFST as part of this year's Student Career Launchpad season taking place during this week. As you have registered to join this session, you will have already seen other Launchpad activities which are being provided free to help our brightest, youngest talent make informed choices about their future careers in the food sector. Don't forget to attend our other events which are taking place all this week, and you can find them on the IFST Launchpad website. I am very pleased to introduce my colleagues and panelists who all work in the manufacturing area of the food industry, and all who have different perspectives of the industry. And between them, they represent a vast amount of experience working in the food sector. So I just want to introduce our panelists today. Today we have Matt Swain, who is a development graduate in Bakkavor Group, Susanna Crabb, who is a food technologist at Bowl Foods, Rebecca Howard, who is a technical operations manager at Innocent Drinks. And if you'd like to find more about our panelists, the details can be found on the IFST Launchpad pages. So this is a live discussion which you can hear from one of our panelists about their typical day in their job, and you are free to ask any questions at any point. So please do make the most of this opportunity, and I encourage you to post questions via the chat function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. So you can upvote other people's questions as well by clicking the like button next to their question. So firstly, I'd like to introduce Susanna Crabb, a day in the life of a panelist, who is going to describe to you briefly of some of the highlights and challenges in their job role. If during their presentation you have any questions, please do, as I've mentioned previously, post it in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. So over to Susanna and your presentation.
Yeah, so I don't know how many of you know about Bowl, but it's been around for about 6 years. We're a plant-based food brand in the UK. I've worked at Bowl for about 3 years as a food technologist. My role covers loads of different things, mainly technical areas, which I'll go into in a bit more detail, but also areas on packaging, and also I lead our sustainability projects as well. Bowl don't actually own any factories, we outsource the manufacturing, and so a large part of my job is kind of maintaining our relationships with our suppliers that manufacture our products. So for example, in the top left picture, that's lots of quality testing that I'll do. So I won't necessarily just do this on our current range. This will be also factory trial products as well, if we're redeveloping existing products and developing new ones as well. I'll at least once a week attend our factories. So we've got 3 different factories across the country. So at least once a week, I'll go up to those, attend factory trials, and kind of discuss with the technical teams there how we can improve our products. We're constantly wanting to improve them, but also attending factory trials as well. My role is obviously office-based most of the time, so working with our team there. So I work within our operations team, and we've got alongside me a quality technician who I actually line manage. And so we'll work together on a lot of quality testing of products, trending of consumer feedback and things like that. Just really seeing, what our consumers are saying about the products and how we can change existing ones, but also develop ones that people are really wanting to see. And then also I'll lead our key performance indicator meetings with our suppliers. So on a monthly basis, we'll sit down with the teams across our 3 manufacturing sites and go through kind of performance of the last month. So not only in technical areas like quality, but also how we're doing in innovation, what new products are coming through, how those projects are progressing, and also managing things like the critical paths for those projects. So making sure everything's sort of hitting timelines appropriately, and just making sure everything's progressing for launch. So yeah, all in all, a varied role, but yeah, really enjoy it, and I love getting my hands stuck in. And I included a picture top right as well because I do the odd kind of thing with the commercial team as well. So we're still quite a small team, here. When you work for a startup brand, it's all about kind of getting involved in things that don't necessarily cover your sort of normal day-to-day role. So that's me at a trade show with one of our account managers in the commercial team, selling in our products. And I love going to things like this because, you know, you can really talk about the products and kind of show your knowledge about them. People ask a lot about the nutrition of products these days. So yeah, I'll kind of be on hand to discuss the sort of technical areas of our products as well. Thank you.
So thank you, Susanna, for such an interesting presentation. We're now going to be moving on to the Q&A session where we are joined by Matt and Rebecca. So just a reminder, you can submit any questions using the Q&A function, which should be at the bottom of your screen. You may need to hover over the little bit at the bottom just to bring it up. So I just want to talk to Matt and Rebecca to discuss what their roles are in the food industry.
I'll go first. So I'm Becca and I'm Technical Operations Manager for Innocent. I'm currently on an 18-month work contract with Innocent, where Innocent previously have used co-packers to blend and pack their smoothies, but we have just built a brand new factory in Rotterdam, which is where I am now. And part of my role has been helping support and set up the technical team. So we've been writing the HACCP, the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point document, and defining what the critical control points are, setting up ways of working within our team and externally. So working out, for instance, how we're going to weigh out ingredients, what the hygiene rules should be, and really developing the quality management system. So including that in things like internal audits and how we're going to train people to do internal audits. Also sensory training. So been setting up how we train our sensory panel, how we train people on ingredients as well. And also being there for first productions. So we're not starting producing everything all at once, but we're slowly, gradually building up our portfolio of SKUs. So also being involved in kind of working out what we need to do to sign off the first production, whether that's microbial or sensory, etc. So it's been very varied, lots of running around, but really exciting project to be working on. I'll pass over to Matt.
Cool, thank you very much, Becca. So hello everybody, thanks for joining. So yeah, my name is Matt Swain. I am a development graduate at Bakkavor. Now, you might never have heard of Bakkavor, and there's probably good reason. We are one of the country's largest private label manufacturers for freshly produced food. So we have about 15 sites in the UK, predominantly based in Lincolnshire. So I'm in Boston in Lincolnshire at the moment at one of our M&S sites. We produce a range of products for pretty much every retailer in the UK. We're one of about 4 or 5 large companies who produce sort of retailer label products for different retailers. So like I said, I sit at the Boston ready meals site where we produce Italian meals for M&S. So we are an M&S dedicated site. I think in difference to both Susie and Becca, I'm sitting on a graduate scheme, so that's kind of my experience, and I sit in the development function as well. So I sit in a development function of a private label manufacturer, hence why I'm talking to you about manufacturing today. A typical day for me is, as a product technologist, is I like to call it rationalizing the crazy ideas that chefs have. So we have a team of development chefs who sit with us at Boston to work on briefs that we get from the retailer. The briefs are often quite forward punching, quite complex in terms of the recipes and the materials. And it's my job to speak to suppliers to get raw materials into the factories, negate any complexity with that, with things like nutritional and quality guidelines. So M&S, as you're probably all aware, are quite heavy on quality and provenance of materials. So we have to make sure everything's M&S A-list. We'll then take the products through with our customer teams to submissions with the retailer. So I've been lucky enough to sit in and lead some of the sessions we have with M&S as an M&S dedicated site. We'll then present the concept to the retailer, who will then decide whether or not it goes through. And then we help our process and technical teams scale up the products to go through our factories. It's quite difficult and it's quite different to see a product that's made in no more than 1 kilo batch made up to a 700 kilo batch in a kettle. But that's essentially what we do. So yeah, lots of innovation, lots of trends analysis, lots of benchmarking, lots of quality reviews. Because at the moment, a lot of the retailers are focusing heavy on quality. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. Look forward to any questions.
Thank you very much, guys. So our first question today is, how would you advise getting into a technical role when is best to apply?
I think it depends on when you say advise. So there's quite a few companies which now do apprenticeships. I don't know if you're talking about university or straight out of school. So there's quite a few companies who now do apprenticeships in the UK. So that's worth having a search. And then there's a wide range of food science or food technology roles at university. And if you're able to do some, get some experience, like a day or so, either at a retailer, or what I suggest doing is kind of Google mapping where you live, see if there's any manufacturing sites around you. LinkedIn is a great way of contacting people as well, and just asking, even if it's for a day, to get some experience. And then I think this is the same question. I'm looking at the Q&A about overcoming feeling inexperienced. I understand it's really difficult to sometimes get the experience. Lots of companies are very busy, but if you think about the role and think about what you need, so for technical roles, you might need to be detail orientated or pragmatic and calm in situations. So you might not have experience in a food manufacturing site or working at Sainsbury's, but you will have experience in your day-to-day life where you've had to be attention to detail or be calm in a situation. So kind of thinking outside of the box. I think right at the very beginning, when you're thinking of technical, think about your own personal experience or hobbies and where you can get those experiences from too.
Yeah, it's all about those transferable skills. Matt or Susanna, would you like to shed any light on that question?
Yeah, I think just to echo Becca's point, I think just being like as proactive as you can about things. So whether you're kind of at school level or whether you're just about to complete your university degree, I think best advice is just really reaching out for what you feel like would be great experience. And you might find yourself in a role at first you don't think is kind of completely relevant, but I think it's about sometimes just getting your foot in the door and just getting sort of any technical related experience, and again you can sort of transfer those skills over to then your perfect role when it comes. So yeah, just really kind of reaching for what you want and going for it. And I think also about the feeling inexperience thing, when I'd left uni, I hadn't done a placement year. I'd done a year abroad of studying instead, which was a conscious decision. I'd always wanted to do that, but definitely when I left uni, I thought, oh gosh, loads of my course mates have done a whole year in placement, and will this hinder me? But actually, I think the key thing, just to say again, is really being proactive about it and knowing that you have a really great degree in a very kind of niche subject, and using that to your advantage. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
And also, if you're going for a job interview or they've seen your CV, they know your experience, so they can't really expect you to turn up and tell you the year's worth of experience when they know that you're either fresh out of uni or whatever. So yeah, I understand it, but try not to feel the pressure.
Yeah, I think the whole inexperience thing it is really difficult to, even in the space of a placement year or a very short placement, actually fully grasp how certain businesses or how certain sort of employers in the food industry do things, because every single company is different. So looking between the three of us sat here, we all have very different roles in the food industry with very different companies with very different aims. So I think it is dialing down into what makes you different, having that positive attitude to learn. So I still ask loads of questions, and I've been here 19 months. So yeah, it is very much, it's a very people driven industry, manufacturing and in food manufacturing. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions, because no one knows how to do anything. I'm working on Pizza Express at the moment. I've never worked for them before. It's absolutely crazy.
Thank you for that. Also, another question, what are the important things you focus on during the quality checking?
I'll go first on this one. So for me, from a development perspective, something that we're trying to increase our ability to do is what's called a WIBI. So would you buy it, or would you buy it again? Quality is a very rounded word when it comes to food, because it can either be, does it meet the quality contract that we sign with our retailer to say there'll be this amount of chicken, this amount of sauce, there'll be no sauce left on the punnet before you goes into the packaging, or there's the quality aspect from actual quality of product. So yeah, one of the biggest metrics that we use is WIBI, would you buy it, which is an indication from either consumer testing or internal testing to understand whether or not a product whether or not a product's got viable commercial interest before it goes onto the shelf.
Yeah, I think from a bowl perspective, I guess it covers so many different things depending on the product range as well. So we have a power shake range, which is obviously a liquid food product. So things we'd test there would be completely different, for instance, for one of our veg pots. We have a real thing about visual. So with the veg pots or salads, products like that, we really want them to have really kind of clear, distinct layers in pack, which is really what kind of sets us apart from other fresh kind of ready meals in the category. So we really look at visual quality as well, but amongst sort of loads of other things, texture, viscosity. But yeah, I'd say flavour for us is the key one. Is it hitting that product specification that we build with our supplier?
Yeah, and then quality for Innocent is, as the guy said, kind of checking against a quality attribute sheet or the specification, and things like checking if the bricks and the colour and the pH, all that kind of builds into the quality of a product. And also we do a lot of quality checks on our incoming raw materials as well as the finished product. So signing off batches of orange juice coming in and things like that. So we look at it throughout the process.
Lovely, thank you. And I think one of our most popular questions is the highlights of your career so far.
I think for me, this job I've had quite a few jobs since graduating a long time ago. And for me, I feel extremely proud to be part of a team who have built a brand new factory in Rotterdam, which has a lot of sustainability credentials. If you have a Google, you'll find out about it. So we're trying to use less water and less energy, and it's really innovative. So I feel really proud to be working for Innocent, and also be right at the very beginning of this journey of creating a manufacturing site.
Yeah, I think for me, so I've been with Bakkavor for like I said, about 18 months now. But my actual highlight isn't from this job, or not yet anyway. But one of my highlights was the first time I got to go on a factory trial. So that I was lucky enough to travel out to Serbia, where my previous placement provider had a factory to make products for all of Western Europe. So that was really interesting, visiting an amazing country, working on a line, working with the team to understand how we get our product that we developed in our development suite and our development kitchens actually to launch. So seeing that first scale and seeing that first actual, your products going onto the shelf or your products being made, even though it was long hours in in a factory where no one spoke your native language, and also 6 foot of snow as well. That was interesting. But yeah, I think that realization of the product's not just at a factory or a kitchen scale anymore, and it's actually scaling up to launch. That was quite special for me.
Yeah, I think for me it was earlier this year. So I'd been the project manager for a new range that we launched in June. So we launched some noodle pots, and yeah, I was leading the kind of development with our co-packer for these, took them through the factory trials, and then yeah, just seeing them on shelf and also see them do so well over the last couple of months since they launched. That was yeah, definite highlight to just kind of see that whole project through.
Lovely. So I think we have time for one more question. What experience did you have before your current role? You've all spoken a little bit about your experience that you've had. Is there anything else anyone would like to add?
So I, like I said, instead of a placement year, I'd done a year abroad. So actually at uni, I tried to get some experience. It was after my second year of study. So I did a week's work experience at Marks and Spencer's Food, which was really great, really eye-opening, and covered loads of different things, not only in technical, but also in product development as well. I had managed to get that because at school in, I think year 12, I had done a week's work experience at a children's food company near where I'm from, back in Buckinghamshire. And a contact there had then put me in contact with a food technologist at Marks and Spencer's. And so from that, I've been able to get that work experience. So I felt, okay, that although I hadn't done a placement year, I'd had a couple of bits of experience here or there. So yeah, I think it's a lot about obviously who you know at some points, but it's definitely about having that proactiveness and going out and seeking that. So yeah, I'd done that, and then when I'd graduated from university, I did a 8-week internship at a company called Ashbury, who they do the kind of artwork checks for Tesco and Marks and Spencer's. So although I kind of knew that role, wasn't what I wanted to do long term, it was, really relevant experience, and yeah, kind of got my foot in the door, and then from that applied for the job at Bowl.
Another thing to look at is, I know Reading University did, I don't know if they still do, but some universities will do like a day or a weekend or something around that course. So if you're struggling to get work experience, but there's other things like that you could do, or go to these kind of things, or conferences or events, and try and get talking to some people in the industry. That's another good way of making some contacts.
Yeah, and I think anything that the IFST do is a really good chance to network as well. So it is a shame that this particular session isn't in person, because you'll all get a chance to talk to us. But yeah, if you aren't already, and I know I'm flying the flag for the IFST, but if you aren't already, please do get involved with the IFST stuff, because it is a really good chance to network and a really good chance to get some links in as well. I think for me, I had a bit of a different approach when I was seeking work experience in the food industry. So I went into my university degree knowing that I wanted to do a year placement. So I was quite successful in getting onto the PepsiCo development placement scheme at their snacks facility in Leicester. So yeah, that was a really good year that I spent working on those products. Because I can't sit still, I then chose to spend the summer break I had between finishing my year at PepsiCo and going back to uni at a small snacks startup in London called Native Snacks. Now that was going from a team of about 150, 200 developers to 2 founders. So that was a really interesting and really challenging role for a summer in London, where because of my credentials in snacking, let's call it, I was expected to hit the ground running, even though I'd only had a year experience in the industry. So that was really interesting. And that was more of a sales, and I called it a sales and operations internship, because there was a lot of product focus where, again, it was using a co-packer. So there was that. and then even though it wasn't compulsory in my university, which is Liverpool John Moores, to do a placement, we did do a term of placement or a module of placement just before the end. Now that was meant to happen in March 2021. We all know what happened then. So I did do a very, very small amount of work experience with a consumer research company in Bury St Edmunds called Good Sense Research, working on sort of consumer panels for Subway and for Sandwich Brothers. So yeah, I'd say if you're like me and like to get experience, the more experience you have is always beneficial, but it's how you talk about that experience in any job offer situation that really hits the ground. And also, if I think we've said between us, if you have a role that doesn't particularly suit you or doesn't particularly land with you, don't walk away from it and think, well, that was a waste of time. Actually use those skills and think about what you did to then try and get the job that you really want. And the unfortunate thing about the world of work is no one really knows whether you enjoy it until you actually start it. So that's another challenge, but yeah.
Really amazing advice. Thank you. So sadly we've run out of time, but we'd like to thank all our panelists for agreeing to participate on today's Explore Careers panel discussion, and thank you for sharing your views and experiences. You've given us all something really valuable to look at, to think about, and I hope our audience can use when thinking about our first roles in the food sector. Please don't forget that this is a 10-minute break now, and we have another session on exploring careers in nutrition. So before we finish, I would also just like to thank our corporate supporters for their financial and in-kind support, which enables us to host these Launchpads and many other IFST educational activities. So thank you for attending today's session, and we'll see you all back here in 10 minutes. I wish you all the very best with your future careers.